And a good evening from my home to yours. I'm Jane Stevenson, Vice Chair of Exporters Eastern Cape, and I welcome you to our very first virtual online AGM. A warm welcome to you, and I trust that it's going to be a seamless experience. I'm really holding thumbs and crossing fingers that your internet connection, as well as mine, is going to hold out. If for any chance we happen to disconnect, there's a big button that says reconnect. Simply press it. And if you go down, you'll come straight back in. And if I go down, I'll come straight back in. So just talk amongst yourselves in that moment. The weather is not on anybody's side at this stage, with a lot of wind. So we trust that it'll all work well. What a year this has been. I tell you, I start off every single year with a theme. It's a word or maybe a phrase that comes out that literally just depicts what my focus is for the year. And I have thought about the last 5 or 6 years' words or themes that I've had, and none of them would have been apt for this year. There is no doubt about that. And, you know, I've gone from thinking the worst was load shedding. And I was thinking about it yesterday and thinking, you know, we used to really think that the worst was load shedding. And if only it was as simple as that. And then today I realized that we're getting load shedding notices, and that's not great at all. So I'm very, very well aware of that. I hope that load shedding doesn't happen in our space. But nature has an absolute way of reminding us that her force is far greater than any human or any ego. And in this time, there have been some great success stories as well. There is no doubt there's devastation. There is no doubt there's economic absolute crushing. But there has also been amazing successes where companies have stepped up. They have brought around new different ways to bring product to business. Some of them have even got new businesses altogether. And it's quite important for us to take a moment and just reflect on some of the successes that there are as well. 4IR used to be a conversation and is now a reality in everybody's life. And humanity, for probably the first time ever in my existence, is the center of every single conversation. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But there are moments to celebrate, as I mentioned. And, you know, as time passes, we realize that we can't keep waiting for normal to come back. And, you know, I must be honest and challenge all our thinking in that maybe we don't want the old normal back at all anyway. And it's time that we actually realized how to live our best lives given these current circumstances. At Exporters Eastern Cape, this is a milestone year for us. We celebrate 40 years of existence. And that's no mean feat for an organization that is funded purely from sponsorships and memberships. And over the past 4 decades, we have really brought to life a whole membership and value proposition, one which I am immensely proud to be part of. And we've continued to remain resilient in these times of change. And this leads me on to welcoming some special guests this evening. And I'd like to start off by welcoming somebody that is very well known to all of us, and that is Denzel Lester. Denzel actually has stood by this association for 40 years and is indeed attending his 40th AGM this evening. He's going to be sharing a welcome with us shortly, and we'll go back to that in a moment. I'd also like to welcome our guest speaker, Brunt Pretorius, who is live in studio with us in Johannesburg, and he'll join us shortly. A warm welcome to our special guests attending this evening, whose names you'll see on screen shortly, and we acknowledge and appreciate your support throughout the years. We also acknowledge our Diamond members, and a massive thank you to FNB, who are this evening's sponsor for this event. And we really do thank our sponsors, you know, in these times of change, to stand by us and to continue to hold our hand as an organization through these trying times is absolutely phenomenal. So thank you. And of course, to you, our members, a huge welcome. The agenda has been circulated, so I think let's start the official proceedings. The apologies and proxies will be seen on the screen shortly. And we acknowledge all the apologies. Thank you to those who sent us proxies. And that does leave us with a full quorum. I'd like to just ask for confirmation of our previous minutes and to look for a proposer and a seconder. I'd like if we could just look for if I could get a proposer and a seconder in the chat box. And just while I'm talking about that, feel free at any time to share in the chat box your comments. Could I have a proposer and a seconder? A proposer? Sujit Bakhaji, thank you so much, and Brendan Aronson for seconding. I'm just making sure, am I still live, everybody? Everybody still fine? All good? Thank you, Dion Ube. Nice to have you here. Thank you, Brendan, for seconding. Perfect. You guys rock. It's not fun doing this online, I must tell you, where I'm usually just about to take, I usually play with Dion at this stage and ask him about how things are going, etc. And all I'm doing is staring at myself on a screen. So I'm glad that you're all still with me. Thank you so much. So before we hand over, there's no matters arising, incidentally. Before I hand over to Quinton to share the chairman's report, I'd like to just go back a second or two to Denzel Lester. And you know something, this is his 40th AGM. He's sitting at home, tucked up, hopefully with Wendy at the moment, and he has done a pre-recording for us. And Denzel, can I just say that you are the epitome of loyalty, that you have stood by this organization as a past chairman and continue every single year to show up at our AGM, to be with us and to unwaveringly support us. And we thank you for that. We trust that you stay safe in these uncertain times, and we look forward to hearing your message. Over to the video.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your participation in the 40th Annual General Meeting of Exporters Eastern Cape. 40 years is quite a milestone, and we can all be proud of this. There are not many organizations that last as long as 40 years. This club, as it was previously known, was started 40 years ago by a gentleman with the name of John Milne. He was the MD of the then known firm of Val Orange, Citrus Processors. It was started with a small number of members, but as the years went by, the membership grew quite substantially. Exporters Eastern Cape plays a key role in bringing exporters and relevant service providers together to network and exchange ideas. This organization remains well on track and certainly assists in promoting exports. I cannot stress enough the role played by our chairman, Quinton Levy, who plays a major part in keeping things going. He devotes a vast amount of time to our organization, and for this, I think we should all thank him. Well done, Quinton, and thank you. I know we are not together physically, but nevertheless, let's give Quinton a round of applause. I'm looking forward to what our guest speaker has to say. He is such a knowledgeable and experienced man. Quinton will introduce Mr. Bront Pretorius to you later. Quinton will also introduce the new committee for the ensuing year, and I'm sure they will provide us with the excellent service we have come to expect. I will now hand you over to our chairman, Quinton Levy.
Welcome to the 2020 Exporters EC AGM. Jane has already acknowledged the special guests, so welcome to you all. I'm just going to be giving a highlight of our activities over the last year. So firstly, on financing, subscriptions have increased quite nicely over the last year. At last year's AGM, we changed our structure to have less levels, and we've had some new diamond members who have come on board since last year. So thanks to all those guys, and I will be touching on the diamond members a bit later. Then on sponsorships, once again, thanks to our sponsors who have sponsored our events over the year, especially our sponsors for our banquet for last year, which I'll also be touching on. In our agreement with Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber, a great initiative which they started and they included us on. So thanks for the Chamber for our contribution that we can give with this initiative where we can mentor members of the Export Development Program. Then we are still in our progress of registration as a PBO. So hopefully by the next few months we'll have our registration, which also assists with our fundraising. We also implemented our own QuickBooks system. So you'll see that the invoicing that you have received is different to the invoicing that you have received in the past. Soon we'll be fully up and running on our QuickBooks system. Then on the slide you'll see our membership structure for the new year. So we're sticking to the three different categories, Diamond, Platinum and Silver. There has been a slight increase in membership fees from last year, but not a great increase. Then on the slide you'll see our Diamond members. So as I mentioned, a big thank you to our Diamond members. The finances that you supply to us is greatly appreciated. All our Diamond members do receive good coverage through recognition on all our correspondence that we send out and on our social media platforms. So just to highlight our Diamond members, SGM Flex, Volkswagen Group South Africa, the IDC, DG Capital, Propeller, Ibisbacher, CEDA, the Business Chamber, and Oracle Media. Thanks to all you. Then on the marketing side, a big thank you to Neil Barker from Oracle. I think since he's come on board, our communication marketing has really taken a nice big step up, greatly supported by Suzanne as well. So we have really strived to get our communication out timelessly and make sure the information is coming out in an informative manner. We have made use of several platforms for our communications, being email, Facebook, our website, and we've included now SMS communications as reminders for our events. We've also been promoting our members via all our media platforms. We also have formed close alliances with all our media sponsors. Then on events, a big thank you to Lede. She's really taken on this role and made sure all our events are well planned and run smoothly. We've had a mixture of panel discussions, factory tours and presentations. Our challenge is still to increase the number of actual exporters that do attend our events. So just another ask for our members who are exporters to please attend our events. Service providers are always great attendees at our events. So please, exporters, please come along to our events and see what we are presenting. In our banquet was our big event for the year. Last year was another fantastic event. We had very good feedback. I'm sure all those that did attend really enjoyed the evening. We are in the process already of judging for the 2020 Exporter of the Year. Yes, the function is going on. I'll touch on that a bit later. And our other big event is our Golf Day. Unfortunately, this year we couldn't hold our Golf Day. It was planned for May and it has been postponed. So just a summary of our events over the last year. I did mention the banquet. Then on the 6th of September last year, we held a BE workshop hosted by Ngeli. Then the 18th of October, there was a Tolado factory tour, a nice event, something different. I thoroughly enjoyed that function. Also in September, we had a wine tasting hosted by FNB. Then 15th of November was our social. So a big thank you to SGM Flex for once again coming on board as our sponsor for this event. It's a nice last event of the year. We just get together, have some snacks, have some drinks, and we give the opportunity of our Exporter of the Year winners just to say a few words. Then this year we kicked off in February with a tour of Ford, where we could see all the expansion work they have done over the last year. Then in March, we had a panel discussion on the export market. Then, unfortunately, we were hit by the COVID epidemic. So then we couldn't have any more group meetings. So then we changed to webinars. And we had a few webinars over the last few months. So in April, we had an IDC webinar. Then in May, a bank solutions webinar with Standard Bank, ABSA and Nedbank. And then in June, we had a webinar with Offshore FX. Then today, our AGM. This is quite a different AGM. but I think it's a great initiative. So thanks to Oracle Media for assisting us, hosting a virtual AGM. Then we've got 3 more webinars lined up for the rest of this year, and then our Export of the Year banquet. So like I mentioned, the banquet will be quite different this year. We won't be getting together. It'll be a virtual event. So please, we encourage everyone to take part in the event this year. It'll be different, as in you will still be able to buy a ticket into the virtual event. What will be nice is if a company buys a table of 10 and they want to invite people from anywhere around the country or even globally, they can be a participant in this event for the first time ever and see the awards being handed out live. It will also give our sponsors great coverage, making this now a global event rather than just people who in the past were sitting in the room. So just a reminder of who were the winners last year. It is on the slide of who were the winners of Export of the Year 2019. So just to say once again, congrats to VW, who were the overall winner of Export of the Year 2019. Then once again to recognize our sponsors of that event. Like I mentioned, these guys do financially contribute greatly to the success of our events. So just to recognize them, our sponsors were Transnet, Volkswagen Group South Africa, SGM Flex, ABSA, Magnetic Storm, Oracle Media, IDC and Sasfin, and then our 3 media sponsors, Kingfisher, The Herald and Oral News. Then on the next slide you will see we have quite a full plan already in place for 2021. There are still a few uncertainties of what we will be and won't be allowed to do based on the regulations at that stage, but we are still planning for a very full calendar, a mixture of panel discussions, tours and presentations, and we have a few new events also planned for next year, so please look out for those. Then under leadership, this is a portfolio that myself and Jane look after. One of the key items we've done this year is really build key relationships with our stakeholders and alliance partners. It is vital that us as Exporters EC are not just seen as a networking club like we were in the past. We now Exporters EC, and we really want to be more making a difference in the industry, working with the major stakeholders and collaborating and making a difference in the industry. We also hold focus groups where we get input from our key members. We had one planned for this year. Unfortunately, due to lockdown, we had to postpone that. But we find it's vital to get feedback from our members, what they think we're doing well and what we could do differently. We also hold a strategy session with our committees. Every year, once we have a new committee elected, we get together, we sit down, we talk about what our actual initiatives are, what we want to achieve, and how we're going to achieve those. I think it's a good time just to mention COVID-19. I think it's part of everyone's lives, and a lot of people may be thinking how it's affected us as an organization. So obviously, as an organization that hosts events, I think it's quite important that our events are different. So we just encourage all our members and our sponsors to stick with us, drive with us through this journey, and once it's behind us, we can go back to our old platforms. So like I mentioned, we have hosted virtual events. So we have hosted 3 virtual events this year so far, and we will be hosting further later in the year. We're hosting the AGM today as a virtual event, and our Export of the Year will be a virtual event. But having said that, once we can hold events again, we assure you that we will be complying with all the protocols of social distancing and cleansing and making sure that we are playing our part in preventing the spread of the virus any further. We'll also make sure that we are supporting our suppliers through this time. I know it's been hard on a lot of businesses, and we want to make sure that we still are contributing to our suppliers. So especially on the banquet, we know that our funding to our suppliers over this time is quite substantial to them, and with having a different event, we still like to support them. So we're putting a word out there, so please support our Export of the Year, and that will assist us in supporting our suppliers. Then under membership, I think Ryan and Sujit have put a lot of effort into this portfolio, bringing on some nice new members, upgrading members, particularly exporters. So thanks to Ryan and Sujit for all your efforts there. Once again, I'd just like to encourage all our members to be active. The more you put in, the better the organization can operate. So please attend our events. If you have information that you think is useful for our members, please do so. If you would like to sponsor an event, host an event, become a sponsor in any way, please speak to us. It will be greatly appreciated. Our database, that's our key source information. So every year we strive to make sure that our database is up to date and make sure the right people are getting emails. So if there are any changes on your database, please let us know so we can update our database and make sure the people in your organization are getting the information they should be getting. We also looked at growing our membership in East London and the Eden district. We have hosted some events in East London. Eden is an area we will look at going forward. So lastly, just a few thank yous. I think first to Brent Pretorius, our guest speaker. He's always a great speaker, and I look forward to hearing what he has to say a bit later. Then Denzel Lester, he said a few words earlier. Denzel has now been present at all 40 AGMs that Exporters EC has held. So a big thank you to Denzel. He has been part of our journey from early days right until today. Denzel has indicated that he will no longer be partaking in our AGMs going forward. So it's a big thank you to Denzel for everything, and he has contributed to our organisation and our AGMs over the year. Then once again, thank you to our sponsor for today, First National Bank. They were originally going to host us at their venue, but obviously with the webinar, they still stayed on as our main sponsor. Then to Pravika Chetty, our treasurer, thanks for compiling the financial statements and the treasurer's report. And then once again, thanks to Oracle Media for designing the invite and organising the online platform. I will be presenting the Treasury Report on behalf of Pravika. So just to go over our key numbers. So firstly, our subscriptions. So like I mentioned,
I will be
presenting
the Treasury Report.
Numbers of paying members has slightly decreased, but our income received has gone up due to the new Diamond members and other members who have upgraded their category. So thanks again to our Diamond members. Then exports of the year, our income. Obviously, we are projecting a reduction in our income this year from last year, with it being a virtual event, where in the past it was a sit-down banquet. So for that reason, we are projecting a slight reduction in our our sponsorship, and also a reduction in our ticket sales. Like I mentioned, we are still going to be charging for tickets, but it will be at a much reduced rate. So then our expenses for export of the year. So in the same light as our income, we're expecting our expenses also to reduce, because in the past, a big number of our expenses were related to our decor and our meal for the evening. So that is reducing. So you can see that's almost half the expenditure from last year. Then on our other expenses, we have seen an increase in our other expenses. This is the first year that Suzanne, our dedicated resource, has been on our payroll for the full year. We've also hosted some events in East London, which has incurred costs. Our webinars also are costing us for the platform. So that's the main reasons for the increase in our expenses from last year. So in total, if you compare our income statement versus last year, a slight increase in our net surplus of 276,043 versus 256,612 last year. But I also have seen a decrease in both our income and expenses because of the banquet. Then looking at our balance sheet. Our balance sheet is still looking in a very strong position. Our payables, not a large number of payables. Those are mainly relate to our expenses that we're looking at incurring for the export of the function. Our income, our assets mainly also relate to our ticket sales, the money we expect to receive, and then a bank balance, quite a healthy bank balance of 1.2 million. So thank you again to Pravika for presenting or putting that together for us. I think she has kept tight control of our expenditure over the last year, and so I think financially we are in a very good position. Okay, so the last item is just to go over the election of the committee. So on the slide, you'll see the committee that was elected at last year's AGM. So heading up finance, we had Greg Bilson, supported by our treasurer, Pravika Chetty. Neil Barker, heading up marketing. Ladain Mini, heading up events. Leadership, myself, heading up that portfolio, supported by Jane Stevenson. Membership, headed up by Ryan Tuddo and Sujit Bagaji, supported by Stephen Burr, Oyama Sindlebana, and Brendan Adriasen. On task teams, Lizanne Preston assisted in the events portfolio, and under membership, Kingsley Del Robinson and Gustav Meyer. And then obviously at the bottom, Suzanne being our branch coordinator, who's the glue that sticks all our different initiatives, teams together. So then for today, myself, Greg Bilson, and Ladain Mini all completed our 2-year terms and have all been re-nominated onto the committee. Neil Barker, Ryan Tuddo, Sujit Bagachi, Oyama Sindlebana, Brendan Adriasen, Jane Stevenson, and Pravika Chetty have another year to serve of the 2-year term. Ndulela Kanka and Stephen Burr resigned from the committee during the year. We have one new nomination, being Sipakazi Ngubane from the Export Help Desk. As we had 2 positions available and 1 new nomination, there is no need for voting tonight. So all those nominated are automatically onto the new committee. The election of the office bearers in terms of the constitution will happen at the next committee meeting after the AGM. We also have volunteers onto our new task teams. If anybody else would like to volunteer to be part of our task teams, please chat to us. We're always looking for assistance in that regard. So on this slide, you will see the new committee going forward for 2020-21. So under funding, Greg Bilson will still head up that portfolio, supported by Pravika Chetty. Marketing communications, headed up by Neil Barker. On his task team, we'll have Cindy Prella, Lizanne Preston, and Apatana Simbabalewa. Then events, headed up by Ladain Mini, supported in the task team by Tricia Wood and Samantha Dunlop. Leadership, myself, supported by Jane Stevenson. Then under membership, Ryan Tuddo and Sujit Bagachi, supported by Yama Sindlebana, Brendan Adriasen, and Spakazi Ngubane. And then Kingsley Del Robinson on that task team. And then once again, Suzanne Famierlang heading, covering all the groups there. So in summary, that will be the committee going forward. So thanks again for everybody who attended the AGM. It's greatly appreciated. Well, there'll be a short break and then Jane will introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you so much to both Denzel and to Quinton. And I just want to really reiterate what Denzel was saying about Quinton's leadership. Quinton, from all of us to you, we just want to say a huge thank you. You are the epitome of servant leadership, and you know the role that you play in this organization and have since I've been involved. It's truly an honor to serve under you as your vice chair. So thank you so much to Quinton as well. On to our guest speaker, and I know that a lot of people are enjoying their beer and their wine. Thank you so much for sharing that in the chat group. I do hope that you're going to use the chat box as well to share some questions. Thank you, Dion, for yours. Keep them coming. We've got some adjudicators that will look at the questions and post some of them, and I'm quite sure that if we do run out of time, that Brent will be more than happy to give Suzanne the answers to the questions and we can share it with you afterwards. So go mad and go live on the chat box with pleasure. These times absolutely require out-of-the-box thinking. It requires a different form of challenger mindset. And it's about pushing our own boundaries and recognizing that no matter what plans we had in place, they probably are absolutely dormant at this stage. And about the navigation of being able to turn those plans into a reality. And who better to share insights with us around leading in a crisis, and he's in fact written a book about this, is Brunt Pretorius. So, of course, Brunt has a pedigree and a CV that is second to none. In fact, I have a copy of his book, and his CV in the book starts at page 247, I think it is, and ends at page 253. That is how accomplished our speaker is. I'm not going to go into the full thing, otherwise we'd be here all evening, but I do want to say that he's probably best known for the roles that he's played at both Toyota and McCarthy. He joined Toyota in 1973 and was appointed the MD of Toyota SA Marketing in 1988. Under his leadership, that brand became a market leader in both brand market share and customer satisfaction. In March 1995, he joined McCarthy Motor Holdings as CEO, and in October 1999, he was then promoted to the CEO of the holding company McCarthy Retail. It's widely acknowledged and known that Brunt played a pivotal role in the turning around of this group after it was actually declared insolvent in 2001. He retired in March 2011, but let me tell you, having spent some time with this man this week and having met him previously, there is no stopping for Brunt Pretorius. He still impacts economies and lives throughout different boards that he heads up or sits on, and he's actively involved in a number of initiatives that are aimed at improving the quality of education in our country. In fact, he is also the national chairman of the acclaimed literacy program Rally to Read, which he himself founded in 1998. And it still doesn't stop there. He published this book, and Brunt, yes, I did tell you I had a copy of it. I promised you I did. And this book was entitled In the Driving Seat, Lessons in Leadership, is his story. And, you know, it's a brilliant book, which I must tell you, when I bought, could read a lot easier than I can, even with my glasses on today. So it just shows you how long it's been around. It's been reprinted 9 times and become one of the most popular local business biographies in our country of all time, and with sales of over 23,000 copies. And Brunt, in that book, you mention how to deal with a crisis and to do it quickly, swiftly, and decisively. So we are absolutely in the best of hands this evening as you take on and give us a keynote address. Brunt, you are an absolute legend, and we welcome you live from our studio in Johannesburg. Over to you, Brunt.
Thank you so much, Jane, for those kind words. Which I certainly don't deserve, but do appreciate. And I would like to say good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the chairman and his committee. I feel very privileged to be with you. You know, in the motor industry, one gets a new model, a second-hand model, and a discontinued model. And I think I'm in the discontinued category now. And for that reason, I feel particularly honored to be the guest speaker at your AGM. And let me start off by congratulating Exports Eastern Cape on celebrating 40 years. It's a remarkable achievement. So you have a proud history, and I'm sure a very bright future. So as Jane said, I have a difficult task. I was asked to talk about guidelines for sustainable success in a very challenging environment. And I'm going to share with you some views in all humility, because the last thing I want to pretend is that I know all the answers. That is certainly not the case. I've been in business for 47 years. I learned a little bit about success at Toyota. where everything kept going right. And then, as Jane mentioned, I had the challenge at McCarthy to try and save a group. It employed at the time just over 10,000 people. The share price had plummeted from 21 Rand to 18 cents. And we owed 8 banks 1.5 billion Rand way back in the year 2000, when 1.5 billion was a lot of money. So what I'm going to share with you tonight, I'm going to base on what I experienced, what I learned, but more than that, I'm going to share with you in humility, but with conviction, what I believe in and what I stand for. So firstly, just a few words about the business environment in South Africa today. And there's no need for me to amplify the devastating impact on the economy, on the business environment caused by the coronavirus, by COVID-19. We are in the middle of the worst macroeconomic environment or crisis in more than 100 years. And nobody knows what is going to happen, whether we are going to experience an L-shaped recovery or U-shaped or V-shaped or W-shaped. The answer is unknown. What I can say, and once again, I don't want to depress you, many businesses have gone bankrupt already. And we see evidence every day of rationalization, of consolidation, and it's only the beginning. Therefore, we are facing a number of challenges. Challenge number one is to acknowledge that it's almost impossible to predict the future. Certainly is in short supply. We also know that the future is not going to be an extension of the past. And yesterday's achievements won't guarantee tomorrow's success. And you've heard it before. The impact of COVID-19 is so serious that it's not just a matter of pressing pause and then pressing continue. It's a matter of pressing it's a matter of pressing and rebooting. We have to reset and reboot. So what are then our challenges that we are facing? Challenge number one is to future-proof our businesses in this time of extreme uncertainty. And how do we future-proof our businesses? We have to transform and perform simultaneously. Transform in order to fit into this post-COVID-19 environment, and perform in order to safeguard our businesses, because competition is going to become even more intense. That is challenge number one. Challenge number two, and Jane referred to it earlier, is this is not a storm that is going to pass. This is the new normal, so we can't wait for the storm to pass. We have to learn to dance in the rain. If we handle this crisis correctly, then it can be a defining moment in the history of our businesses. We can use this crisis, as we did at McCarthy, as a catalyst to build to create a much stronger platform for the future. So let me then get to the guts of this discussion. What are then the guidelines for sustainable success in the post-COVID-19 era? First guideline is we need to retain a positive vision. We can't afford to be afraid of the future. In fact, we must give the future a firm handshake. And we must make plans and we must take initiative. And we simply should not give up. Retain a positive vision. Second guideline is in this period of uncertainty and turbulence, we should continue to run our businesses based on the right principles and values. In fact, during uncertain times, we need moorings. We need to anchor our decisions and our behavior in those timeless principles like integrity and consistency and compassion and fairness and justice. And we have to behave in line with the values we hold dear. Values like honesty and openness and sincerity. A value like teamwork. A value like the acceptance of responsibility. A value like excellence in everything we do. Those principles and values will form the foundation for sustainable success. Next guideline, we have to create relationships with all our stakeholders based on trust. Trust trumps everything. And trust can only be earned. It can only be earned by behaving ethically, by being competent, and by caring. Next guideline, we shouldn't neglect transformation. In fact, we should embrace and accelerate the pace of transformation. Transformation remains a moral, a strategic, and a business imperative. Next guideline, it's imperative that we remain socially responsible. The business sector forms an integral part of the fabric of South African society. We can't afford to hide behind the walls of our businesses. The time is always right to do what is right. And doing good is good business. If we want to flourish in the post-COVID-19 era, we have to be the best in a couple of things. The first one is we have to be the best when it comes to strategic thinking and planning. We can't afford to panic and to stop navigating. In fact, we have to zoom out, take a helicopter view of our businesses, make sure that what we offer in the post-COVID-19 era is relevant and competitive. Second thing that we have to be the best at, we need to be the best when it comes to knowledge of our industry, of our sector, of our business. In times of change, learners inherit the earth. Knowledge, also in the new era, will be a key differentiator. It is absolutely imperative that we keep our knowledge base up to date. We have to be the best when it comes to the quality of our human capital. We shouldn't settle for the appointment of compromise candidates. We should go for the very, very best, because outstanding people make a disproportionate contribution. We have to be the best when it comes to the mobilization of information technology and the internet. But we shouldn't just pursue technology for technology's sake. We should ensure that technology assists us to provide a better solution to our customers, to get to the point where our service offering is characterized by high tech and high touch. We have to be the best when it comes to financial management and risk management. It's imperative to remain prudent, conservative. The balance sheet is infinitely more important than the income statement. And yes, watch cash flow like a hawk. It's the lifeblood of our businesses. We need to be the best when it comes to marketing efficiency and sales. The creation of a sustainable demand for our products and our services will remain a key and a very critical challenge. We should continue to build our brands, make our marketing communication more effective. We should be the best when it comes to customer satisfaction and customer retention. And that will only happen provided we exist for our customers, provided we impress them and delight them and surprise them with trivial touches of excellence. Last thing that we need to be the best at, we have to be the best when it comes to the effectiveness of leadership. Leadership is the key enabler. Everything rises and falls on leadership. The quality of leadership represents the most potent competitive advantage any business can ever have. When it comes to the quality of leadership of self, it is the source of every great achievement. It's the bedrock of every extraordinary life. What should the impact of effective leadership be? Should it be compliance and absolute obedience? In my book, that is not leadership, that is oppression. Jane referred to it earlier when she spoke about Quinton. In my opinion, servant leadership is the answer. To lead is indeed to serve. Before one can ask for a hand, one needs to touch a heart. And one can only touch a heart provided the leader is a caring person and prepared to serve. I can vouch for it. Servant leadership makes an enormous difference because people respond better to love than to fear. And it's not at the expense of results. It enhances results. A servant leader can be bold without being a bully. One can be firm but fair, gentle but fearless, kind but not weak, rigorous when it comes to results, but not ruthless when it comes to people. I said to my executive team at McCarthy often, we must remain hard-headed when it comes to results, but have a gentle heart when it comes to people. Servant leadership works also in the tough world of business. Let me conclude. To flourish in the post-COVID-19 era, we need to implement or apply an integrated approach. I touched on, I think, 11 or 12 guidelines. The quality of leadership will be the decisive factor. Our task is, from a leadership perspective, to always do the right things when it comes to vision and strategy and principles and values. And then to do the right things right when it comes to effective execution. That is the acid test of leadership, to deliver results, to get the job done. So we must lead and not mislead. Suppress our egos and build our characters. We should make absolutely sure that our people know that we care about them and that we are prepared to serve them. And we must prize truth and respect and results and service above power and authority and self-importance and self-enrichment. Lastly, the task of the leader is also to give his or her followers hope. Hope is life itself. Hope is such an incredibly powerful source of energy and inspiration. And if we don't have hope, then we can't give hope. I want to say, I have hope for the future of our country. Despite all the difficulties, despite all the challenges, Helen Keller put it so aptly. She said, hope sees the invisible. Hope feels the intangible. And hope achieves the impossible. And I believe we have it within us to achieve the seemingly impossible. Thank you.
Wow, Brent, that was absolutely incredible. And do you know what I absolutely love about your address is that it's so from the heart. It's everything that you speak about in your book. It's there is just no doubt that you truly believe what you're saying. And there's a couple of things I just love what you said there, the transform and perform. And they are so interdependent yet exclusively different to one another. And I love that. Thank you. And using crisis as a catalyst. And I wonder, it's such a challenge for us to really think about how can we use this crisis right now as a catalyst to take us into the future. And your statement on give the future a firm handshake was such a powerful statement. It's incredible to think, even for myself, we often look at the future almost with fear and anticipation rather than actually walking up to it and saying, I'm here, let's do business and let's walk together into this stuff. I love the fact that you said trust trumps everything. I might take the word Trump out of that, but nonetheless, trust most definitely is everything. And certainly in our area in the Eastern Cape, we know how effective leadership needs to be. And in the absence of effective leadership, whether it be in our business, in our homes, in our social environments, or in fact in government, how it really impacts our livelihoods. I made so many notes on what you said here. And the one key thing that stood out is the time is always right to do what is right. And sometimes what we do is we tend to think that in these times we've got to take shortcuts or do things out of survival that actually go against the very grain of what it is that we are. So thank you for your words of wisdom. I really appreciate that. I must tell you that the chat box has been really, really live during your discussion, and we've got quite a few questions to you. So let me just go to our first question. And the question is, what is your view on the new normal, specifically in the automotive industry, and how the South African automotive master plan objectives need to be readdressed and realigned?
Yes, Jane, firstly, thank you for the positive feedback. I find it very encouraging, and it means a lot to me. So the definition of the new normal when it comes to the South African automotive industry is not clear as yet. The domestic market, new vehicle market, as you would have seen, has registered a very sharp decline. Should we take the sales during the month of June as an example, the market is down by more than 30%. So only time will tell at what level the market is going to flatten out and what the sales composition is going to be. But what I can say with a lot of confidence and certainty is that exports will remain pivotal to the future of the South African automotive industry. And from that point of view, we are blessed because the policy environment is not only stable, but it's also very supportive. And the next version of the MIDP will undoubtedly assist us to create an even stronger platform for all our export initiatives. And good news have happened. I mean, 2 weeks ago, one of the major vehicle manufacturers announced a massive investment, a very big contract. A company that I'm involved with, Meta Investments, is a major beneficiary of the Ford announcement. So I believe that the fundamentals will remain the same once things have settled down, and that is our local manufacturers, be it OEMs or component manufacturers, must remain competitive, must be in a position to guarantee consistency of supply, and obviously we should continue to use initiative and find niche markets and niche models that we can manufacture locally.
Another question is, we'd love to hear how soon Brunch thinks the three major automotive markets, namely China, the USA, and Europe, will recover from pre-COVID-19 volumes.
Jane, yes, you mentioned the three major markets. It all depends, obviously, on how the economies recover, how quickly and how significantly. My own view is that the market in China is the most resilient. We can already see evidence of a V-shaped recovery. One reason is that vehicles there are very affordable. The second reason is that people are trying to avoid using public transport. In the US, I think the economy is also more resilient. and vehicles there in relative terms are the most affordable in the world. So I think the American market should recover fairly quickly unless there's a second wave of coronavirus infections. And Europe will take some time. The last point I want to make is that many governments all over the world are doing special things to assist the motor industry and to boost the demand for new vehicles. Some have introduced scrapping allowances, others a reduction in value-added tax. So unfortunately here, it's unlikely that government will stimulate the local new vehicle market because our government has so many other priorities. But that's my forecast for the three major markets.
Thank you, Brunt. And you're so right. You know, the one area of obviously looking at markets is around COVID-19 and a second wave potentially, etc. But the other is all the other disruption that is indeed happening. If you look at America, etc., the economy is really taking a lot of strain from a multitude of different angles, with people's anger coming through. So I guess it all influenced it in some way. Brunt, there are so many questions coming through here. But I know that we like to keep our events on time. So with one last question, how does one retain a positive mindset? And any advice given based on your previous experience? And I guess that the person asking this is really about, we're living in a world that is filled with anger, with a lot of disruption. We're seeing things plummet, we're seeing businesses close, we're needing to retrench and restructure. It's really hard. And you know, the feeling and the sense of that love aspect of servant leadership within businesses actually makes it affect us more because we really do care about people. How do you remain buoyant in these trying times?
Jane, I don't have all the answers because some mornings I also need to talk to myself, look at myself in the mirror, and instruct myself to lift my head and continue. So, in my opinion, the secret lies in the leadership of self. So in tough times, we should retain our sense of purpose. We should be more purpose-driven than ever before. We shouldn't have a victim mentality. We shouldn't invest time and energy in worry and fear. And what I found is that should there be fear and despair, get involved, take action, make plans, use initiative, do something worthwhile. And lastly, what has helped me tremendously, tap into your sources of energy and inspiration. One's faith, one's family, one's friends, and then focus on the task at hand. And that is the best, I believe, one can do under these trying circumstances.
What a magnificent ending to one of my favorite AGMs. I must be honest with you, Brunt, because I've just, you know, in the life today and in this world, I think that this purpose-led leadership it's been so forgotten about that, in a sense, it may be a blessing that, as I mentioned in the beginning, humanity is coming to the fore and is the very conversation on the lips of leaders for the first time perhaps in a long time, as opposed to the profit and loss. Thank you so much for your time, and you are such a blessing to us, and I'm quite sure that you'll see the comments the team will share with you later, all the beautiful comments from our members that have been coming up throughout your discussion. Thank you so much, Brunt.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you to all the members. And it's been such an honor and such a privilege for me to have been with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, I must just tell you that Brunt speaks from the heart. There's no big screen in front of him that's sharing the notes with him or anything like that. He is a true testament to servant leadership. And I think maybe just it's a positive ending to our AGM to just say that I love the about hope and leading. So on that note of hope, I think let's just end with a quote from your book, Brunt, if I may, and it speaks to servant leadership as well. And it's right at the last chapter of your book, and it says, "The things you do for yourself are gone when you are gone. The things that you do for others remain as your legacy." And if we can take from your keynote this evening, is that as leaders in our city and in the export industry, if we can lead and do the things for others, and at this point help each other, whether it is suppliers, whether it is as competitors, it doesn't matter. We are all in the same storm, albeit in different boats. And right now we need each other's support more than ever. So thank you once again. Above all, stay safe to everybody, maintain social distancing, and mask up because we need to. We are about to enter the eye of the storm in South Africa, and no one has a free pass from COVID-19. Thank you for attending our 40th AGM. It's been an absolute amazing experience, and thank you to Oracle for a seamless production. We do appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you at the banquet coming up. Don't forget to please, I know the tickets are not quite on sale yet, but it is going to be online and not done as a webinar. It's going to be an event where you are going to be interacting as well. So we once again celebrate all the successes in our region. I officially declare our AGM closed. Thank you, enjoy your evening, and have that glass of wine on us. All the best. Thank you so much.